My boss fired me for taking one sick day. The call I got that night changed everything. I had worked at Northbridge Systems for almost 6 years. Every morning, I arrived before the lights fully warmed the office floor. I stayed late more times than I could count. Weekends, holidays, even birthdays passed with me answering emails or fixing reports. I believed hard work meant security. I believed loyalty meant protection. My supervisor, Mr. Harlan, always said the company valued dedication. He praised people who never complained. He rewarded those who stayed quiet and delivered results. I tried to be exactly that person. At first, everything felt stable. Promotions came slowly, but my responsibilities grew quickly. I handled compliance records, internal approvals, and operational reports. My name appeared on many official documents. I trusted the process. I trusted the system. I trusted him. Looking back, I realized how often he watched me. He noticed small mistakes others ignored. He asked detailed questions about my logins, my work hours, even my remote access habits. I thought he was being thorough. Now I understood something different. He wasn't supervising me. He was studying me. The pressure had started months before everything collapsed. At first, it felt subtle. Mr. Harlan asked for extra reports that only I handled. He wanted timestamps, login histories, and approval records. He said audits were routine. He said accuracy protected everyone. I believed him. But small things began to feel strange. Documents appeared in shared folders that I did not remember preparing. Approval forms carried my name even when I was certain I had never seen them. When I asked about it, he always had an explanation. System sync error, he would say calmly. Temporary override. Nothing to worry about. He spoke with confidence that silenced doubt. Still, I noticed patterns. He often asked me to work remotely on sensitive approvals. He insisted I log in during unusual hours. Sometimes he sent instructions late at night, marked urgent, requiring immediate confirmation. I felt important, being trusted with critical work. I did not realize I was leaving a trail, a digital trail tied to my identity, one that could be used later. But at that time, I only felt tired, and then my body finally gave up. The morning I got sick, I could barely stand. My head burned, my throat felt raw, and every movement made the room spin. I had ignored smaller illnesses before, but this was different. Even walking to the kitchen felt like climbing a hill. I called the office early. My voice sounded weak even to me. I need one sick day, I said. I'll return tomorrow. There was silence on the line. Then, a short reply. Noted. No concern, no question, just a flat response. I slept most of the day, drifting in and out of fever dreams. My phone buzzed, with emails I could not read. Messages stacked up. Notifications kept flashing. Late afternoon, a message arrived asking me to confirm several compliance approvals. I tried to open the files, but could not focus. My vision blurred. My hands shook. I told myself one day of rest would fix everything. I did not know something else was already moving. Something had been waiting, and my absence had just triggered it. By evening, I felt slightly stronger. I decided to return the next morning. I never got the chance. When I walked into the office the next day, the atmosphere felt wrong. Conversations stopped when I passed. People avoided eye contact. Even the receptionist looked uneasy. Then I saw Mr. Harlan standing near my desk. He held a folder in his hands, thick, organized, prepared. Come with me, he said. His tone was cold, controlled, rehearsed. Inside the meeting room, 2 managers sat quietly. Papers covered the table. My name appeared on every page. Attendance issues, delayed responses, missed approvals, performance concerns. I tried to explain I had been sick. He cut me off. You failed critical responsibilities yesterday, he said firmly. Your absence caused serious operational risk. One day, one sick day, they said trust had been compromised. They said the company could not rely on me. Then he delivered the final words. Your employment is terminated. Effective immediately. No warning. No discussion. No chance. Just dismissal. In front of witnesses. I packed my belongings while everyone watched. I walked out numb, confused, humiliated, and completely unaware that losing my job had just saved me. That evening felt unreal. My apartment seemed quieter than usual. The silence pressed against me. My mind replayed the firing again and again. Rent, bills, reputation, future. All uncertain now. I opened my laptop and checked my work email access. Already revoked. My login credentials were gone. Years of files, records, and communications were no longer reachable. It felt like my entire professional life had been erased in hours. I tried to understand why the reaction had been so extreme. One sick day did not justify immediate termination. Something about the decision felt rushed. Urgent. Like he needed me, gone quickly. I ordered food, but could not eat. I stared at the wall, replaying every conversation from the past months, every unusual request, every late-night approval, every document I barely remembered signing. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. I was exhausted. I expected spam or a wrong number. But something made me answer. That single decision changed everything. The voice on the phone sounded calm and formal. He introduced himself as Malik from a regulatory audit division. His tone was professional but careful, like someone measuring every word. He asked if I had worked at Northbridge Systems. I said yes. Then he asked something that froze me. Were you aware your name appears as the responsible officer on several compliance certifications filed this quarter? My heart pounded. I told him I handled some compliance tasks, but not major certifications. He paused. These documents authorize operational procedures and financial validations. They carry legal accountability. I felt cold. He asked if I had personally approved them. I said no. He remained silent for a moment. Then he explained something else. A system review had triggered after a sudden employment termination connected to active authorization credentials. My termination. My identity. My approvals. Everything had been flagged automatically. He said discrepancies suggested possible credential misuse. I did not fully understand yet, but one thing became clear. Someone had used my name, and my firing had exposed it. After the call ended, I sat completely still. My hands trembled. My mind raced through months of confusing details. Documents I did not remember. Approvals I rushed through while half asleep. Remote logins requested at strange hours. Suddenly, patterns formed. I realized how often Mr. Harlan had insisted I confirm access credentials, how often he asked me to leave sessions active, how often he handled technical adjustments himself. I had trusted him completely. Now I wondered how many times he logged in as me. How many records carried my identity instead of his. The audit officer called again the next morning. He explained they needed cooperation, full transparency, access to any personal records, emails, or archived instructions I still possessed. I agreed immediately. I had nothing to hide, but I had everything to lose if I stayed silent. Because if violations existed under my name, I could be blamed. I was no longer just unemployed. I was at risk. And the only way to protect myself was to help uncover everything. The investigators asked detailed questions, dates, times, instructions, communications. I searched my personal backups and found messages marked urgent from Mr. Harlan. Many demanded immediate approval confirmations. Some arrived when I was offline. Some appeared after midnight. Some referenced documents I never reviewed fully. I noticed something disturbing. Several approvals were logged during times I was physically at the office, but not using my computer. Meeting schedules confirmed my location elsewhere. Yet the system recorded my credentials as active. The audit team requested device history. They examined login sources, network access points, remote session records. Days passed as they analyzed patterns. Meanwhile, I waited at home, unemployed, anxious, uncertain. Then Malik called again. He said login activity tied to my identity repeatedly originated from a fixed internal terminal. A terminal assigned to executive access. Specifically, Mr. Harlan's office. The investigation shifted instantly. I realized the truth. He had not just fired me unfairly. He had planned to use me. Cooperating with investigators became my full-time focus. I organized emails, downloaded message histories, and documented every unusual instruction I remembered. The process felt overwhelming, but strangely clarifying. Each piece of evidence formed a timeline. Requests for remote approvals increased during specific reporting cycles. Urgent compliance confirmations appeared before major financial submissions. My identity authorized actions that benefited executive performance metrics. Malik explained something important. Fraud schemes often rely on trusted employees whose credentials provide clean authorization trails. If wrongdoing surfaces, responsibility appears clear. The fall person is already documented. I realized how perfectly positioned I had been. Reliable, quiet, always available. Responsible for sensitive approvals, trusted without question. Disposable. If the audit surfaced while I still worked there, suspicion would point directly at me. My credentials, my name, my digital signatures. But my firing changed that timeline. My removal triggered automatic credential review. And suddenly, the pattern became visible. Mr. Harlan had tried to erase risk. Instead, he exposed everything. I began remembering specific remote approval sessions. Mr. Harlan often insisted I log in from home to expedite confidential processing. He sometimes guided me step by step while standing behind me at the office. Other times he said he would complete technical sections himself after I authenticated access. At the time, it felt efficient. Now, it looked like preparation. Investigators requested my home device logs. They matched login periods with network activity. Several sessions showed simultaneous access from 2 locations. One from my device, one from an internal office terminal. Impossible under normal security rules. Unless credentials were being mirrored or reused. The system logs recorded extended activity long after my sessions ended. Approvals finalized hours later. Changes executed overnight. All under my identity. Each discovery tightened the case. I felt shock turning slowly into anger. Not loud anger, cold anger. The kind that settles deep and waits. I did not confront him. I did not warn anyone. I simply kept cooperating and watched the investigation grow. Weeks passed quietly. Outwardly, nothing changed at Northbridge Systems. Business continued normally. No public announcements, no visible disruption. But behind the scenes, data reviews expanded. Investigators mapped authorization patterns across multiple reporting periods. They identified repeated credential overlaps. Executive approvals routed through subordinate identities. My identity appeared most frequently. Malik explained they were preparing formal intervention procedures. Evidence needed to be complete. Timelines needed to be precise. Every digital action required verification. Meanwhile, unemployment felt heavy. My savings shrank. Uncertainty pressed on me daily, but I remained focused. If the truth surfaced fully, my reputation would be protected. If not, suspicion could remain forever. Then one afternoon, an unexpected message arrived. Mr. Harlan requested to speak with me. No explanation, just a short message. Call me. Urgent. I stared at the screen. For the first time since being fired, he reached out. Something had changed. He sensed something, and the game was shifting. I did not return his call immediately. Instead, I informed Malik. The investigators advised caution but allowed communication if documented. When I finally answered, Mr. Harlan sounded different, controlled but strained. He asked how I was doing, polite tone, artificial concern. Then he asked if anyone had contacted me regarding company matters. I kept my voice neutral. Why would they? He hesitated, then said there might be routine reviews. Nothing serious. Standard procedure. He suggested I avoid misunderstandings by clarifying any questions directly with him. His words sounded careful, measured, defensive. I realized something important. He did not know how much investigators had discovered. He was probing for information, testing risk. I gave him nothing. Just short, vague responses. Before ending the call, he said something quietly. We all need to protect our professional futures. That sentence revealed everything. He was not checking on me. He was protecting himself. And he was worried. The investigation moved faster after that call. Malik confirmed internal monitoring had expanded. Financial records, compliance filings, and executive communications were being reviewed simultaneously. Patterns emerged across departments. Multiple approvals routed through subordinate accounts. Authorization layering designed to obscure direct responsibility. But my case remained central, because the volume of actions tied to my identity was unusually high. Then investigators confirmed something decisive. Security camera footage matched login times. During several critical authorization events, I was visibly elsewhere. Meeting rooms, public corridors, different floors. Yet system logs showed active session commands. From Mr. Harlan's office, the evidence became undeniable. Credential misuse, unauthorized approvals, system manipulation, and intentional concealment. Regulatory enforcement authorization was granted. Intervention would occur soon. No public warning, no internal notice, just immediate action. Malik told me calmly, prepare for rapid developments. I waited. The silence felt heavy, like air before a storm. The day everything broke started quietly. No warning signs, no headlines, just another ordinary morning. Then my phone buzzed repeatedly. Former colleagues sent short messages. Something's happening. Authorities here. Systems locked. I turned on the news feed. Nothing yet. Internal events rarely surfaced immediately, but more messages arrived. Regulators entered the building early. Executive offices sealed. Servers secured. External audit teams deployed across departments. Operations slowed. Approvals frozen. Communication restricted. It was happening. The intervention had begun. I sat at my kitchen table, watching updates appear slowly. My heart beat steadily, not fast, calm, focused. Weeks of preparation had led to this moment. By afternoon, the first official statement appeared. Northbridge Systems confirmed regulatory review regarding compliance irregularities. No names mentioned, no details provided, but I knew exactly where investigators were looking and who they were questioning. For the first time since losing my job, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Rumors spread quickly. Friends still inside the company shared fragments of information. Entire departments were being interviewed. Digital systems were locked under supervision. Access privileges suspended across management levels. Executives held emergency meetings behind closed doors. Mr. Harlan remained in his office for hours. Then he was escorted out by compliance officers. No announcement, no explanation, just quiet removal. Employees watched silently. Some were confused. Some were afraid. Some were not surprised. I learned that investigators presented detailed access records during questioning, timestamp charts, device mapping, session histories. Evidence impossible to deny. The authorization trail pointed directly to him, repeatedly, over months. Using my credentials as operational cover, the company issued a second statement that evening. Internal investigation confirmed unauthorized credential activity by supervisory personnel. Still no names publicly. But inside the organization, everyone knew. The structure that protected him had collapsed, and he had built that structure himself. 3 days later, he called me again. This time, his voice sounded strained, almost pleading. He asked if I had spoken to regulators, asked what I had shared. asked if there were misunderstandings that could be clarified privately. I answered honestly. I provided factual information. Silence followed. Then he spoke more urgently. He said errors happen in complex systems. He suggested responsibility could be interpreted differently depending on context. He asked if I would support that interpretation. I understood his request. He wanted protection. He wanted shared blame. He wanted my silence. I refused calmly. I already explained everything to investigators. He breathed heavily. Frustration, fear, and anger mixed together. Then he asked one final question. Why didn't you come to me first? The answer felt simple. You fired me. The line went silent. Then the call ended. Regulatory proceedings moved steadily. Formal notices were issued. Internal audits expanded beyond compliance certifications into financial reporting accuracy. External oversight intensified. Mr. Harlan's access privileges were permanently revoked. His professional license review began. Legal representation appeared quickly, but evidence continued accumulating. Investigators discovered altered reporting timelines, adjusted operational metrics, artificially accelerated compliance confirmations. Each action linked back to credential misuse. Each record supported intentional manipulation. Meanwhile, I continued meeting with auditors. My cooperation remained consistent, transparent, documented. Weeks turned into months. Public disclosure finally came. Northbridge Systems announced executive misconduct involving unauthorized system access and falsified compliance authorizations. The statement confirmed disciplinary action and regulatory penalties. My name was officially cleared, but something else followed. The company requested a meeting with me. Not investigators, not regulators, the board of directors. Walking into that meeting felt surreal. Months earlier, I had been escorted out as a liability. Now, senior executives welcomed me respectfully. They apologized formally. They acknowledged investigative findings. They confirmed my credentials had been misused systematically. They recognized my cooperation had prevented greater regulatory damage. Then they presented an offer. Financial compensation for wrongful termination. Public statement restoring my professional standing. And something unexpected. A new position. Higher authority. Independent reporting structure. Direct oversight responsibilities separate from previous management chains. They said they needed integrity to rebuild trust. They said my actions demonstrated exactly that. I listened quietly. The offer felt significant, but the emotional weight of everything still lingered. I asked for time. They agreed immediately. I walked outside after the meeting, feeling lighter than I had in months. The air felt clearer. The tension that had followed me since losing my job finally loosened. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. For a moment, I hesitated. Then I answered. It was Malik. His voice sounded calm, but satisfied. He informed me that regulatory proceedings had concluded preliminary enforcement actions. Professional sanctions had been issued. Financial penalties imposed. Legal accountability established. Mr. Harlan would not return to supervisory roles in the industry. His professional credibility was gone. Everything he built had collapsed. Malik thanked me for cooperation. Then he said something simple. Your termination triggered truth. The call ended. I stood still for a long time after that. One sick day, one dismissal, one phone call, and everything changed. Days passed as I considered the company's offer. Friends encouraged acceptance. Financial security mattered. Career recovery mattered. But something deeper guided my decision. Trust. I needed to believe the system that failed me could truly change. So, I reviewed investigation reports carefully. Structural reforms, oversight controls, credential protection measures, independent authorization monitoring. They were rebuilding safeguards from the ground up. That mattered. I accepted the position, but on one condition: transparent compliance reporting directly to the board. No intermediary supervision. They agreed, immediately. When I returned to the building weeks later, the atmosphere felt different. People spoke openly. Systems required dual verification. Authorization trails were monitored continuously. My new office overlooked the same floor where I had once been dismissed. Now I watched everything differently, carefully, quietly. Nothing escaped notice anymore. Adjusting to the new role felt strange at first. The same building, the same hallways, the same hum of printers and quiet conversations, but everything around me felt different. People watched me when I passed, not in suspicion anymore, but with a kind of quiet respect mixed with curiosity. Some employees greeted me more warmly than before. Others kept their distance, unsure how to act around someone whose name had been at the center of a major investigation. I understood their hesitation. I had once been just another employee sitting quietly at my desk. Now, I represented something larger, proof that the system could be challenged and corrected. My work focused heavily on rebuilding trust. Policies were rewritten line by line. Approval processes were redesigned. Access controls required layered verification. Every action left a trace that could not be hidden or overwritten without detection. I supervised audits that examined even the smallest operational detail. At first, the workload felt overwhelming. Every report carried weight. Every decision mattered. But gradually, structure replaced chaos. Transparency replaced assumption. Some days, I paused and looked across the office floor where I had once packed my belongings under silent stares. Now people approached me for guidance. They asked questions about compliance, documentation, and system integrity. The same space that once dismissed me now relied on me. That shift never stopped feeling profound, and it reminded me daily why vigilance mattered. One afternoon, while reviewing archived system access reports, I found myself staring at the exact type of data that had once nearly destroyed my life. Login sequences, session durations, authorization trails, timestamps mapped against physical movement. Before the investigation, these numbers would have meant nothing to me. Now I saw patterns clearly. I understood how easily digital identity could be misused when oversight weakened. The company had implemented behavioral monitoring systems that flagged unusual login patterns automatically. If access appeared from two locations within unrealistic timeframes, alerts triggered instantly. If approvals occurred outside verified workflow sequences, review protocols activated. These safeguards were built from hard lessons written into policy because of what had happened to me. Sometimes I wondered how many organizations operated without such protections, how many trusted authority without verification, how many relied on assumption instead of evidence. That thought unsettled me, because what happened at Northbridge Systems had not required complex deception. It required opportunity, access, and silence. Nothing more. But now, silence had been replaced with observation. Procedures required independent confirmation. Responsibility could no longer be shifted quietly. For the first time since returning, I felt something steady settle inside me. Not relief, confidence. Life outside work slowly returned to normal as well. I paid my bills without anxiety. I slept without replaying conversations in my head. I met friends again without forcing a smile. Stability came back in small, quiet steps. Yet sometimes, ordinary moments still carried echoes of what had happened. When my phone rang from an unknown number, my chest tightened briefly before I answered. When I saw official documents requiring signatures, I read every line carefully, not from fear, but from awareness. Experience had changed how I moved through the world. One evening, I walked past the small cafe near my apartment where I had sat months earlier, staring blankly after losing my job. I remembered the weight in my chest that day, the feeling that everything familiar had collapsed. Now, I stood there differently. The memory no longer felt sharp. It felt distant, like something that had shaped me, but no longer controlled me. Growth often comes quietly, I realized, not through dramatic victories, but through surviving what once seemed impossible. Several months later, The company completed a full external compliance review. Independent auditors examined every department, every system, every reporting structure. Their final assessment confirmed that structural reforms were effective and sustainable. The board held a company-wide meeting to share the results. Employees gathered in the main conference hall. Some stood along the walls, others sat in rows, listening carefully. When they explained the improvements, they also spoke openly about past failures. No defensiveness, no vague language, just clear acknowledgement. Then something unexpected happened. They thanked me publicly for my role in protecting organizational integrity. The room grew quiet. Not awkward quiet, respectful quiet. I nodded slightly, unsure how to respond to recognition I had never sought. I had not acted to be praised. I had acted to survive. But hearing the truth spoken openly mattered more than I expected. It meant the past was no longer hidden. It meant lessons would not be forgotten. It meant accountability had become part of the culture, not just a response to crisis. That realization felt more meaningful than any title or promotion. Even now, I sometimes think back to the moment everything began. A simple morning when my body refused to cooperate. A single decision to stay home. A termination that felt devastating at the time. If events had unfolded differently, my life might have taken a darker path. I might have remained unaware while responsibility gathered silently under my name. Investigations might have pointed directly at me. Evidence might have been misunderstood. Instead, one unexpected interruption exposed everything. That truth still humbles me. We often believe major life changes arrive with warning dramatic signs, clear signals, obvious turning points. But sometimes transformation begins quietly, disguised as inconvenience or loss. A fever, a phone call, a question asked at the right moment. Looking back, I no longer see that day as the moment I lost something. I see it as the moment truth found a way to surface. He fired me to protect himself. He believed removing me would remove risk. But systems record actions. Evidence endures. And integrity, once revealed, cannot be reversed. All because I took one sick day and answered the call that followed. That was the night everything changed. And the reason I never ignore unknown numbers anymore. In the end, I didn't win because I fought harder. I won because I told the truth and refused to carry a lie that was never mine. Losing my job felt like the worst day of my life, but it was actually the moment everything hidden began to surface. The system that failed me forced itself to change. The man who tried to use me lost the very power he thought protected him. And I learned something I will never forget. Integrity may feel quiet, slow, and fragile, but once truth has evidence, it becomes unstoppable. I walked away from that chapter stronger, wiser, and impossible to silence. What began as a sick day ended as a turning point, not just for my career, but for who I became. He tried to erase me from the story. Instead, I became the reason the story was finally told.